There's nothing quite like opening day at Del Mar. I fancy myself a bit of a wordsmith, but even I'm always at a loss for words when it comes to describing my favorite day of the year. I'll just leave it at this. I survived another opening day. And after all the fun and frivolity yesterday, it's time to get down to some serious business today. Hello, everyone. My name is Frank Scatoni, and I am back for another season of Best Bet. And I am doing this live on site at Ranch 45, my new favorite eatery right across the track on Via della Valle. If you're heading to the races, please stop in, have a bite to eat, say hi. Brant Beef and Ranch 45 are big supporters and sponsors of Del Mar, and Eric Brandt, along with executive chef Duval Warner, want to build a spirit of community around the racetrack. So I'll be here every Sunday doing the show from their site and then hanging out afterwards to talk horses, eat lunch, and just hang out with anyone who wants to stop by. I'd love to see you all. All right, before I introduce today's guests, let me just remind everyone about the format. This is not a traditional selection show. We're not going to talk about every race. We are just going to look at specific races and wagering strategies that offer the best opportunities to make a decent score. If you're watching live from home, feel free to leave us a comment or ask us any questions. The show will also be archived on Del Mar's Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube platforms. Now, back to today's guest. He's been on the show a few times before where we've talked about his incredible tournament success, including his $500,000 plus score in the 2021 Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. But I wanted to have him back for two reasons. One, he's pretty much the smartest person I know. And two, he just wrote an incredible book called A Better Way of Thinking. We'll talk about that. Let's get to it. Matt Miller, welcome. What's good?
I think I go out of my way in that book to say I shouldn't be regarded as the smartest person anybody knows. So how do you immediately just lead with that and expect me to live up to that?
It's great. I want to make you blush, I want to,
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. And for the audience who may not yet be familiar with the book, they should know Frank was, I think the term was copy editor. The term for me is huge helper. And he had a nice role in it and made it better. So publicly, thanks a lot for your help, Frank.
Well, you know how much I enjoyed it. And I was being completely honest with you, Matt, when I said I've edited a lot of books in my life, and and most of them, really felt like work. And I enjoyed the work. Don't get me wrong. That's why I did it. I love books. I love words. I love working with smart authors and creative people. But I had a really hard time working on your book because I was enjoying it so much. I was in it. And I said, no, wait a second. No, I have to go back and really focus on what my task is at hand. But anyway, it was a real pleasure to work with you on the book. We're going to dig pretty deep today. We'll cover a lot of topics. But I just want to say something right off the bat. You have so many great qualities, and I'm honored to call you a friend. But there is one quality you have that I believe makes you such a great horse player. And you talk about this a lot in your book. You are unabashedly you, always. There's no artifice. There is complete honesty and transparency. You say what's on your mind. Someone asks you a question, you're direct and honest with them. And I love that. But you also do things your own way. And most of the time, that way might be considered unconventional or contrarian. But that's what makes you a great horse player. You see things differently than most people. To me, that gives you an edge. Not to play armchair psychologist, but would you agree with that assessment?
Definitely. And a lot of this book, and I don't think we need to talk about the book the whole hour, although I'm more than happy to, and it's going to be unavoidable at times. But a lot of this book is spent talking about my evolution, what I used to do wrong, what I've learned. And this is not imposter syndrome or false humility. I have more years of memories of being average and making mistakes than I do of winning BCBCs or having huge cash days, or that kind of thing. And so I remain so closely in touch with where I came from, where I'm at, and I'm acutely aware of why those things have changed. And I try real hard in this book, at least in the context of my life, to explain why certain things ended up freeing me to, like you said, to be me. And I had no idea what was holding me back. Well, I should take that back. I didn't at the time understand what was holding me back.
Right.
Once those things got released, wow, I've got freedom of movement. I'm actually, a lot of my start came from a big score where I essentially got really lucky and had a big pile of money to start with. And that provided a level of freedom where not being afraid to lose. You're going to see me
Right.
occasionally look over at the chair that's empty next to me. I share an office with my wife. She has a ton to do with the freeing of me as a player, the guilt associated with telling her about losses or explaining why
Sure.
things didn't go well. And it just got a lot easier to say, can we just agree that I'm successful and you don't have to pay as close of attention and I'm not going to be irresponsible?
Yeah.
And with a yes to those questions, it was like taking off all the shackles. And next thing you know, right,
You're holding a big giant check that says 500 something $1,000.
right. And I'm standing behind a couple of buddies who I helped to get there along the way
Yeah.
for them. It's
Yes.
been just an unbelievably fun time. And it, hopefully I've made it fun for those along with me for the ride. It's with buddies that are well versed in my tournament strategies. It's easy to say to them, hey, oh, you don't have a second entry today? Let me pop for that. We'll go partners on the financial side. Make all your picks. Do all your, I don't even want to hear what you're picking. I'm not supposed to know any of that stuff. I want the diversification of your picks with my general methodology. And I don't need to go down the list of people or their accomplishments. I also wasn't invested in every one of those, but my friend group is pretty well known. And yeah, it's been awesome, helping them along in the process.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some of that stuff in a little bit. And I was actually saving this question to the end, but you brought up learning from your mistakes and how, you didn't just jump into the game and, you weren't like all of a sudden like Rain Man and just crushing it. It's a big learning curve. So you have a lot of really good stories that illustrate your successes in the book. But there are also many stories where you talk about your mistakes or failures and, quite frankly, hilariously make fun of yourself. So I would like you to share one of those stories. And I'm only asking because it comes back to what I said earlier.
Oh, it's so easy.
Transparency, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and more importantly, learning from your mistakes.
So for people that have heard the story before, maybe you'll just enjoy me laughing at myself as you hear this a second time. But it is a shame that I have a story that I can point to as my absolute dumbest moment as a horse player. First of all, I think I was dumb for playing a jackpot pick six in the first place, if I'm being honest. And I'm not trying to make enemies with any racetracks that still unfortunately host those bets. But the carryover was small enough that I actually thought at Arlington I had a reasonable chance of taking it down. There just weren't a lot of people playing that bet in that particular way. And so I constructed a ticket. I don't remember, maybe let's call it a $200 or $300 ticket. It was pretty reasonable.
Okay.
And I think I had two singles. And as the day went on, I made that bet very early in the day. And as the day went on, as we got closer to the race, I was doing pretty well and decided to make, I won't call it a hedge ticket, but kind of just a plan B. And in the race where I took one of those singles, I said, okay, I'm going to take all here. And in one of the other races where I went deep, I'm going to just take my top opinion. And that way I'll be spread to some different stuff. Races go along. Everything's going terrific. I still don't totally understand the technology that won't allow them to tell you sometimes at some racetracks if you're going to hit the jackpot or not. They make you watch the stupid race and wait for the prices. and then you look up to see, did the thing pay 6,000 or 30?
Right.
And it's just unbelievably frustrating. And I'm standing there waiting by the screen with my ticket, so excited, and it shows up $30 or whatever it was, and I'm like, I can't believe that somebody else hit this thing. There were long shots today. I thought these were good picks. And then the moment of absolute terror just overcame me as I looked at the 2 tickets I had bet. I was the asshole that prevented myself from taking down the jackpot. When I did the second ticket, it didn't say all -1.
Yes. So for people out there who aren't familiar with the jackpot, they will only pay out the whole pool if there is one ticket, single ticket. If there are more than one winners on the day, it moves on to the next day. So,
and could you imagine being smart enough to be the only person to hit that bet and the only person uniquely stupid enough to do it twice?
that is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So yeah,
You would have taken down the whole pool.
Tell them again how smart I am, Frank. That was amazing.
You know what? I'd like to retract my statement at the beginning of this.
Well, in fairness, that's a mistake you make once. And it's a mistake I'll bet you the listeners never make, because one of the big things I talk about in this book is the lessons that I've had to pay for.
Yeah.
And the lessons that I got for free watching these horrible things happen to my friends. And so one way or the other, you need to take in these lessons. Honestly, for the cost of a book, I think I can save you a lot of money. It is quite a joke that as I talk to people about the book, and it's a $50 book, I recognize that's aggressively priced. Without exception, when I explain this is the cost of one bad bet avoided or one good bet made, anyone who does any kind of horse playing at all says, yeah, you're right, $50.
Yeah.
If you can help me one time in my life, that book pays for itself.
Yeah, no, your book fills a much needed void in the marketplace, because there have been a ton of books written about handicapping, and that's great. You have to be a decent handicapper if you want to make some money at the racetrack. But what gets overlooked so much is wagering strategy. That is the name of the game. That's why we're playing. We are trying to make money. If there are people out there who are playing just because they want to show people that they're smart and they had 6 winners on the day, but only made $40, or someone like you who's like, I only had 1 winner, but I turned my bankroll into 4,000. Pete Fornatale, our buddy, we joke all the time. Would you rather be rich or right? I'd rather be rich, So, but this leads me into my next point.
Let me interrupt you for a second.
Yeah, sure.
There is a place for the person you just described. And I'm not being condescending, negative, any of that. It's called horseplayers.com. $2 win and place tournament.
Right. That's a selection-based tournament.
Right. It's terrific for people, and I'm being really extreme for no apparent reason. It's for people that either don't like betting, aren't good at betting, it isn't their strength, but they are good handicappers and they like picking. Right. That's actually a really good format for that.
Yes.
I don't like that format at all, because for me, I've left all of my best weaponry behind.
Right.
But for some people, go have at it.
Yeah. Wagering live money and live bankroll tournaments is where your strengths are. And the book addresses that. You talk about your strategies. You talk about what to do. You talk about how to achieve your goals for the day. And that brings me to my next point. What advice would you give to someone who's only been in the game a few years, has had some success, but then really wants to take their play to the next level? To me, that is a very tough leap, to go from a casual weekend warrior type of player to someone who says, hey, I really think I'm good enough to make money here. I need to get more serious.
I would want to ask the person how they got to the place they got and whether it was by accident. Here's what I mean by that. I get deep into this book-wise. I'm very goal-oriented. And so I always have a sense of where I'm trying to go or what my purpose is, what I'm trying to do. And the person who starts at one level playing a certain way, I'd like to understand better why they think they're doing well, right?
Right.
It may be that their bank balance is going up, which is great, but are they doing well because they win every time they go? Have they done well because they hit 2 big pick sixes and lost every other day of the year? Those answers would tell me what I would recommend to that person. But my approach, I think, works for everyone, whether or not in the process of leveling up. I look at goals. What are you trying to do today?
Right.
If someone in the process of getting better as a horse player decides to ramp up their goals because they're doing better, maybe maybe they're willing to bet more to make more, maybe they're trying to make more off the same amount they're betting, right? So I don't, either way, set some goals, interim goals for a day, right? Look at a day as an independent unit and ask yourself at the end of the day, how many times did I do what I tried to do?
Right.
And if you can be honest with yourself, if you are answering that question favorably, saying, yeah, actually, I nailed it today and I hit my goal and I stopped. Look, if you start doing that enough times, I'd say shoot higher. I mean,
Okay.
if you're doing that well,
Right.
I think it's Mike Maloney. I know Pete Fornatale repeats it all the time. It's become a line that I'm just stealing. Earn the right to bet more,
I
and
like that.
it's a terrific. I love it. It's a great way to think about things, and for someone who's not doing well, it also makes perfect sense. Why are you betting so much if you're doing so poorly? You should, if you're going to do so
Right.
poorly, do it with less money.
Okay. Yeah, no, that is absolutely great advice. And yeah, Mike Maloney is one of the Sharpies. Excellent player. Good guy. And he's written a book too. I forget the name of his book, but
Betting with
you
an
go
edge.
on Amazon, you can check it out.
Betting with an edge. It's terrific.
Betting with an edge. There you go. So related to the point that you were just talking about, you know, I know that you are very aware of your strengths and weaknesses. I know you're a good handicapper, and we've talked about it, but you rely on some really sharp friends whom you consider excellent handicappers. And that's okay because you know that your biggest strength is how to leverage a good opinion, bet efficiently, and make money. You're a brilliant bettor and strategist. And let's face it, like I said, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, making money. If you have live horses, you know how to turn those horses into a profit. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Absolutely. It's why someone chooses to be proud of themselves or what they're proud of is personal. But for me, I love watching UFC, and I love watching these incredible fighters go through incredible agony and pain and difficulty. And the fight ends, and they are almost to a person universally gracious about bringing in their entire team into the octagon and saying how helpful everyone was in making the finished product what it is. And I don't think those fighters feel badly, or that they have to explain that they had a strength coach, or
Right.
a nutrition coach, or a wrestling coach special for this opponent. They say, right, I surrounded myself with the right team,
Yeah.
and I'm the one in here killing it. And bring them in. Thanks, everybody. Well,
Yeah.
I look at playing the horses the same way. I'm a B- handicapper. That's not BS. It's slightly above average, in my opinion. I say that. I used to think I was better than that, if I'm being honest. Then I met people who are really good.
Yeah.
Keep embarrassing these same people. Nick Tamero, Howard Kravitz. I could keep going.
Yep.
They all get this. They all get plenty of shout outs. They don't need more here. But the bottom line is these guys are terrific. They're better than I am. And especially as I've gotten better at listening to how they express their opinions, I've gotten decent at handicapping the strength of their opinions, which has
Yes.
also been helpful to me.
Handicap the handicapper. That's what we always say.
Totally. And so do I come up with my own picks? Of course I do. Most of my own picks center around finding overlays or betting opportunities. It's a lot more than just the handicapping side, but it's usually a buddy whose tip sheet or whose text will say, check out this 4-1 or 6-1 horse.
Right.
That will catch my attention. And, I don't measure statistics like this, but the ROI on those phone calls and texts is just through the roof. It's just unbelievable. And I couldn't be more grateful to have buddies looking out for me. It makes, the rising tide lifts all boats, and we've all been having a good time with it.
Well, yesterday I saw something about you tweeting out one of your buddies had a long shot and suggested maybe playing win, place, and show. Tell us about it, because that's a perfect example of what we're talking about.
It's perfect, and it brings in another wonderful concept of money management from the book. This is something I get laughed at for. I don't care. Since the closure of Arlington, and I now have to play online, I honestly believe that the balance in your account has a bearing on the way you play. I think if you're looking at an account that ends in .000, it really forces you to, do I really want to make a bet to disturb that pretty balance? It's just another check. And if the answer is yes, that's fine. But conversely, I make sure to not leave it in a way that's so easy for me to just pick up my phone and start betting again.
Right.
So at the end of the day, and look, I had a decent day yesterday. I didn't do well in tournaments. I did okay in cash. And I had one particular account. I'm careful in the way I talk about money, because everyone values things differently, and I'm not trying to sound overprivileged or whatnot. In the context of gambling, I look at however many dollars you have as a unit. And whether my unit is $100 or $250 or yours is $5 or 10, I don't care. We're all trying to make a multiple on our unit.
Yes.
And if I finish the day on a non-even dollar amount, I call those scraps, right? The scraps above my betting unit, right? I'll pick a ridiculous number. If my account had $100,079, I'm going to bet those $79 to leave it at an exact, insane six-figure balance.
Maybe you are a little Rain Man-like. I might take that statement back too.
We know that. But okay, the $79 I will bet as scraps. And when I look and see that my buddy that I just had dinner with had some crazy pick, on his power picks, that's a 20-1 shot, it seemed like a perfect opportunity to just throw that last couple $100.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm doing that more for money management's sake, not because I'm in love with his horse. And even in the process of playing for scraps, you end up doing pretty well. That horse popped at 30-something to 1. I mean, it was something crazy.
And I know I think he suggested bet the horse to win, place, and show. You just bet it to win, right? So
yeah, that's lazy. That's just lazy. Look, there are parts of me that aren't quite as nice as they seem to be. I do carry some grudges. You won't catch me under any circumstances betting place or show in a jurisdiction without penny breakage. Period. Won't.
Right, because they're taking your profit away.
The right bet on Howard's pick was probably to take those couple $100 and just bet it to place. Maybe a couple bucks to win. I'm not much of a show bettor generally, but I'm just not doing that. Where if they don't have penny breakage, I just don't want to support that kind of betting. So,
so you just bet to win, and it's pretty nice hit.
It looked like a ridiculous pick, and cost benefit, risk reward, call it what you want.
Right.
I didn't think it was worth 3 minutes trying to construct a bunch of trifectas for him to come in second or third. It felt like that was going to take too much time.
Oh, I love it.
I'm just like, okay, whatever. We're going to talk about that strategy at the end of this discussion. I know.
Yeah.
But in that moment, it wasn't a strong enough opinion to me. I was just kind of betting off the scraps, and boom, you get lucky sometimes. Smart picker.
So we just got this great comment from Steven. Great book, Matt. I finished your book, and 48 hours later, I won the biggest tournament of my life. Thank you. I give you credit for helping me with the mental approach. And that was actually my next question, the mental approach of the game. We're friends. I consider you one of the nicest and most generous persons I've ever met, yet you have a fierce competitive spirit. You like winning, but you also like to lose, right? Talk to us about the mindset and the mental approach to, let's face it, horse racing is a very tough game. You are going to lose a lot more than you win, but you need to maximize your winnings. So how do you get your head around it and go into there like a warrior?
I have a long-term approach, and I'll admit it's easier to keep this approach with the last 5 years I've had. Budgeting would be tougher if I were a losing player. I'll admit that. But look, in the tournament landscape, everybody knows you want to win. And even when you're sitting across the table from your very best friend, the comment that every one of us makes is, I hope I destroy you, but if I lose, I hope it's you that wins. And
Yes,
we all mean that. One of my favorite concepts in tournament play, I don't think I've ever, this sounds like a ridiculous comment to make, but I think it's actually true. I don't think I've ever lost a tournament to another person. I've lost every tournament I've lost because of me.
Okay.
I didn't get to where I was trying to go.
You didn't hit your targets.
Right. It wasn't, look, and I'm not making fun of anyone that comes in second. I think immediately of JK with 2 BCBC seconds. That's unbelievably successful and amazing.
Yep.
Especially given how he did it without it being top opinions necessarily. But putting that aside, as it is with me, I'm a big believer in not leaving the putt short. And if I'm going to hit my target, it's going to be a winning target. One of the things that I will readily admit to being good at, I am good at handicapping what it takes to do well in these tournaments. I am generally pretty spot on with the multiple it takes for first, for fifth, for whatever. And so it's very seldom that I walk away from a tournament saying I didn't have a good handle on this thing and I didn't really know what to do and I had trouble creating my goals.
Right.
The question is, how do you get to those goals? And at least for me in the tournament, there's a huge difference in cash play and in tournament play.
Yep.
We'll talk about, you asked me for a couple picks later and we'll talk about them. And the ones that I gave you, I thought were perfect to illustrate one that I would love to use in a tournament and one that I wouldn't.
Yeah. So
vice versa.
I want to get into that because, usually I get races to talk about and set it up and talk a little bit of handicapping and all that stuff. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to let you say, what was your approach today when I asked you to be on the show and you had to come up with your best bet or bets of the day?
That's a great question. So, okay, I'm no shock. I'm a thoughtful person. I plan in advance and I thought about what points I wanted to make here. And I think the biggest one was the difference between cash and tournament play. So I intentionally looked at today's card and said, where would be my big play if I was playing in a tournament? And what would be my cash play if I wasn't thinking that way? We don't have to pull it up this second. There's a horse, I think it's in the 4th race.
Yeah, race 4.
That looks to me like it lays over the field. I recognize it is technically not the morning line favorite. I appreciate you pointing that out earlier. I'm stunned by that. And I do think this Baffert horse is going to run exactly like we all expect these Baffert horses to run. The works have been spectacular. The thing looks like a lightning bolt. And I think it's, with a good break, I think the race is over 10 steps out of the starting gate. I really do.
And that's number 2, Casalou, that you're talking about. It's Baffert, Juan Hernandez, 2-1 on the morning line, second choice. The morning line favorite is actually a Richard Mandela firster, tabbed at 9-5. So I love it. When you handicap without the morning line, that allows you to see things a little differently. And you see when you think a horse is going to be a huge favorite and it's not, that's an opportunity.
Well, I don't know what it's an opportunity for, but it's an opportunity. And it's funny we're talking now because I have a lot of sympathy for people that are forced to do these morning shows, not with the benefit of the tote board right in front of them,
That's right.
giving them feedback. And I'm telling you right now that if that Mandela horse is 1-1 and Casalou is 5-2, this race is a hard pass. I understand the horse is the same horse, but he's not who I thought he was relative to the other. If the market is giving me that kind of signal,
Yeah.
if the
Okay.
Baffert horse goes off at 4-5, and the other horse goes off at 5-2, I'm going to say, right, as backwards as it sounds, because don't people want 5-2 instead of 4-5? I feel so much better if this horse is 4-5.
Because the money showed. The money showed up for them.
And so in a tournament, for example, just any kind of a cash, live bankroll tournament, this would be the kind of horse that I'd want to hang my hat on. I'm also going to do a quick shout out to my new friends at Equine Edge. I've been given access to that product. I don't know that I use it exactly the way they would recommend. I know there's a lot of
Of course you don't, Matt. You do it your own way.
but it does seem to be quite good at isolating good favorites or potentially revealing vulnerable ones. And in this particular race, it almost didn't acknowledge the existence of the other horse. And so, okay, in a tournament, I'm looking at this as an opportunity. And we don't need to specifically look at races 3 or 5, but I'm looking at this as a 1-1 shot that if I have 2 entries in a tournament, it's a perfect spot to take the 2 entries and shoot them off in different directions, both using Casalou as the basis for an all-in daily double. So maybe it's a daily double going from race 3 into race 4, and I would take my top 2 picks from that race and do those 2 daily doubles. Maybe it's race 4 into race 5. That would just depend on my opinions.
Okay.
As it so happens, recognizing that that I'm not the best handicapper I know, I called someone up and said, "Hey, I've been given an opportunity to come on a show this morning and give a sharp opinion." The guy's name is Noah Maher. He works for my buddy Howard Kravitz at the HHH Racing Podcast. He's got a tip sheet just for Del Mar that's brand new. In a snap, he had a horse for me. I got to go look it up exactly which one, but I think it was race 3.
No, it's right here. It's right here because you sent it to me. Right? Race 3, 16 arches.
That's exactly it. So I want to go find his quick reasoning, and this dude's sharp. And
it sounds like I should have him on the show next week too.
Well, I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to be too pushy.
No, I would love to talk to him. That's great. Okay.
He's terrific, and he is, so I don't want to make this too much about Howard and whatnot, but he's got a great podcast. He's got
Howard's great. We've done things together. I love Howard.
The Benton and Boozen show with the younger guys is a different brand, and they're really sharp and really good. And he's one of those guys. And he lives out there. I think he goes by West Coast Bias. 16 arches. I mean, he immediately flexes to this horse and starts firing off. It's the second off. It's been a long layoff. It's the second off the layoff.
Yep.
Last race didn't go according to plan. The lifetime buyer top might be an indication she's ready to run a good one. He starts citing D'Amato numbers, second off the layoff, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. I mean, the bottom line is he had me at race 3, number 6.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to sit there questioning, of course I end up looking, and it looks like a very compelling pick. He says anything 4-1 to higher or higher is where he'd be playing it. And right. I mean, so maybe if this was a tournament, I would use this as one of my 2 daily doubles. I'm not sure I'd be doubling up on this. As much respect as I have for this guy, I don't think I want my entire tournament wrapped up in the same daily double that isn't exactly with a favorite necessarily. And let's expound on that for a second, because I know we talked before the show about strike rate. That is a big factor for me in these tournaments. And it is probably the big differentiator between betting tournaments and betting cash. If you take an example of a tournament I care about, and a tournament I care about is usually one when I'm there, and it's usually one for a lot of money. And these come around once a year, maybe twice a year. If you told me, Matt, I have a 50 to 1 shot. He's paying 50 to 1, but it should be 10 to 1. It's the deal of the century. There's no chance I'm playing that in that tournament. There's no chance. I would bet the heck out of that thing on the side. Don't get me wrong. But in a tournament that exists once a year, I need better. I need to be in the action better than that.
High percentage strike rate.
It's just it's that formula is, if they had these huge tournaments every week, sure, that's a great play, and value will catch up with you and you'll win more than your fair share.
Right.
But I dare say, for the rest of your life, Frank, I'll bet you that you don't pick a single 50 to 1 shot in a Breeders' Cup race ever. That, even if you were right that it should have been 10 to 1 and you get 50 to 1.
Yeah,
no, waiting around for a lifetime for something.
Matt, that is such a great point, because if I'm playing in a tournament like that and I'm with my buddies, and let's say a 20 to 1 shot wins, their first instinct is to go, "Oh man, that's gonna flip the leaderboard." I go, "No, it's not. No one is pushing all in on a 20 to 1 shot. No.
It's one or two.
It's such a low percentage strike rate. You're going to erode your bankroll before you hit one. So you have to play wagers that are going to give you a return on your investment and keep you in the game to get to where you want to be."
Yes, and look, one or two people might have hit that horse in an exacta or a double or
right,
a trifecta,
something like that,
and their number shoots way up, and you say, "Oh my gosh!" Look, I'm not disrespecting those people. I'm not afraid of those people. I don't think what they just did is going to happen again on the same day. Most of them actually seem to recognize that and freeze up and stop betting. And for me, it sounds so pompous, but it's so honest. Unless their total moved my target, I don't care.
Right. You're playing to get to where you feel you need to be.
Right. I don't even bother. It's only because I have buddies that I will bother to look at a leaderboard in the middle of a tournament, just to see if Marshall Graham's doing well, just to see if Tony Zhou's run is continuing. And by the way, I think he won the Naira Bets thing yesterday.
Wow. These are two great players that Matt's mentioning.
These are really good. Tony in particular has just been on a great roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I like looking at the board for that, but when I see he's in first place with a total of less than my target, I just don't care.
It's meaningless to you. Yeah. It's because if you hit your target, you're passing him.
Right. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy he's in a great position to do well.
Yeah.
If I miss my mark. And that's the beauty of these tournaments. That's how you stay friends with people that for the last 8 hours you'd like to eliminate.
So let's say from a wagering perspective in here, just to give our audience a little something to have fun with today. All the stars lined up, race 3 into race 4. The doubles are playing decently to your horse, but the horse is taking the kind of money that indicates that Kazaloo is live. How would you suggest approaching race 3 and race 4 from a daily play perspective?
Yeah, the way I'd be playing this is exact. So what you just said, I want to reiterate. The very first thing I would do, the very first thing I would do is, starting in race 2, I would be taking a look at the daily double probables just to see that 16 Arches was catching at least an appropriate amount of money that would make me think she's going to be bet below 9-2. Right? If 16 Arches went off today at 8-1, I'm passing. I believe deeply in market signal. And so I would at least use the double probables from race 2 to give me a sense that race 3 is going to shape up in the way I'm thinking.
Okay.
As I then get to race 3, I'm looking at, again, my thought process. I'm looking at the 3, Gypsy Woman. This is the importer coming in. That these horses to me seem to be money burners more than money makers.
Okay.
Yet if this horse was sitting on the board at 1-2, that's all I need to know, that this horse is quite live.
Yeah.
I'm going to be hoping not to see something like that. I'd be 2-1, 3-1. Actually, 3-1 would 4-1 would be amazing to me. But then as I get down to 16 arches, yeah, I'd like to see somewhere in the range of 7-2, 4-1. I will then look at those double probables, and I'm going to plug in my head that I think value on that Baffert horse, fair value, I think the horse is probably 3-5. And
Okay.
so I'm going to construct in my head, if I think 16 arches should be 4-1, I'm going to do this dangerous math on the fly.
We won't hold you
So
to
I'm
it.
going to get back $5, and if I'm betting $5, so that double's got to pay $8. And by the way, it's going to pay a lot more than $8.
Yes.
And when you do the math and realize that the thing is paying 11, you're going to say, "Wow, that's $3 more on 8. That's a 37.5% overlay I'm getting."
Nice.
37 and like if you were betting sports and there was a button when you go to bet a baseball game that says, "Do you want a 37.5% extra profit for the same thing?" Yeah,
Yes.
so these
But
doubles,
I think we get horse players go, well, $8, $11. Then you look at some other probables, $62, 88. You get a little greedy, right? It messes with your head.
8
What's wrong with 11?
times how many is the question.
Yeah.
You don't have to bet the daily double for $1. And so if this is your top opinion on the day, let's get back to your question. This probably would be getting 50% of my allocation of bankroll for the day.
Wow.
50%.
Okay.
And so some would be on a win bet, not on Casalou, but on 16 arches.
16 arches, right. So you bet some to win on 16 arches and then
hammer that double. And it could be that my betting day is substantially over at that point, depending on what kind of profit target I had set. And I have plenty of days. I'm just going to use real numbers that aren't real to make a point. If I was trying to make $1,000 in a day and this double paid $13.25, I don't care what opinions I have on the rest of the day. I'm not walking out of that place with less than $1,000 of profit.
right.
I'm thrilled to have $3.25 to play with, but that's a little more than scraps in my opinion. But okay, I'll pocket that $1,000. That was the goal for the day. I'm not walking out of here short of goal. That would be crazy to take yourself out of that position.
Right.
And I got $350 to play with, including your horse in the last race that you like.
Well, yeah, we're going to have to save that conversation for another day because we're almost at 45 minutes and we could just talk. But what I wanted to tell, well, two things before we wrap up. One, you talk about market signals. Market signals in this day and age are stronger than ever because these markets are so efficient. There are computer players who know what the prices of the horse should be. They're not always right, but typically if you follow the money, the market is really efficient. So that's what I wanted to say about that. But so when Matt and I were discussing what we were going to talk about today, in typical Matt fashion, being contrarian or thinking differently, unconventional, he goes, "You know what, Frank? Why don't you pick a play of the day and let's talk about that, and then we could have a discussion based on that." I loved it, and I was just thrilled about it. Originally, you wanted to do maybe a pick 4 or pick 5 so we could teach people some strategies about how to maximize those bets. Unfortunately, I thought those sequences were very difficult, so I didn't want to invest too much time or energy into trying to do that. Time out. Okay, what?
That might have been the most helpful thing that either one of us has said in the last 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You should
Don't force it.
Don't force it.
Don't force it.
I asked Frank for a pick 4 or pick 5 for the specific purpose, not to set him up, but I was going to say, this is where you're too spready.
Yeah.
Where you're losing value. This is
and that's a great exercise. And we're going to do that next time.
but on your own, you came back saying, "I can't responsibly do that here."
Yeah.
That's a perfectly acceptable answer. You don't have to play the pick 5 or pick 4. You can play the pick 1, right? Make a win bet. You can make some double bets. You can go vertically within a race, but there's no rule that says to have a good day at Del Mar, you have to hit a multi-race bet.
Yeah.
Don't if it doesn't work, if you have to get too spready, don't do it. So hats off to you, Frank, for not doing it.
Yeah, I will say that if there's one thing that we talk about strengths and weaknesses, I will say discipline is a huge strength of mine. I have no problem passing races. If a horse wins that I liked and I didn't bet it, there's a reason I didn't bet it. I didn't bet the horse because I didn't think it was the value that I wanted or was expecting, or maybe I didn't like the way the horse looked in the paddock or whatever. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because
so really smart, not me. Yeah. But in the process of writing this book, I think it was either you or Pete that gave me the quote. Maybe it was Paul Matisse that said it. Now that I'm thinking, I'm not sure. Something to the effect of, if you're not passing winners, you're betting too many races.
Yes.
And that
makes
me feel a lot better when a horse that I liked won and I didn't play it.
Yeah. So we were going to talk about a long shot that I liked in the last race. I'll just throw the name out there if people want to take a little flyer. Number 4, Rostam and Vibe. We were going to talk about how when you find a horse who you think is going to outrun their odds, but is a low percentage strike bet because, the horse is a long shot. And I thought the favorite looked perfectly fine in that race. But we'll save that for another day, Matt. We'll have you back on in the fall. And we so many topics we can talk about. We got to wrap it up because I'm getting hungry. And I'm here at Ranch 45 and the food here is terrific. And you'll appreciate this because I know you appreciate good food. Terry.
Take that long shot. Take 3 horses. Play them in an exacta for the horse to come in second. Take 3 horses, put all in the second place. Take Frank's long shot and put it in the third spot. Just don't bet too much money. It's a little spready, but it'll pay huge if it hits.
Okay, well, there you go. There's strategy for the last race. I love it. You'll appreciate this because I know you appreciate good food and fine dining. We were here last night with Terry and I were here last night with Pete Fornatel, and he is a foodie. And he could be very, very critical. We had a prime rib dinner here last night. And I looked at Pete and I said, so what do you think? He goes, 10 of 10. I couldn't believe, it was outstanding. But for Pete to say that, it's good. It's quality beef. Duval Warner, the executive chef here, is amazing. When you come out for the Breeders' Cup, we're going to have some good steaks here.
I'm in.
So he gets Pete's seal of approval, and we know how tough Pete can be. But anyway, I got to wrap this up. I'm going to stick around here at Ranch 45. I'm going to get some lunch. I'm going to hang out. If there's anybody here who wants to talk horses and anything, you just come say hi to me. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. I can't thank you enough. We talked for 48 minutes, and I feel like we could talk for 48 hours.
Yeah, I'll be at the restaurant as soon as I get there. This will be a fun day.
I know, good beef. And Brant Beef is supplies all the beef. But anyway, everyone go out, buy Matt Miller's book, A Better Way of Thinking. It's a great cover too. And the content matches the quality of the cover. Matt, thanks again. As I always like to say, good luck to us and let's make some money. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next week.